What's the longest you've ever waited for deliverance? For freedom, what's the longest you've ever waited for God to move? What has it felt like forever? Well, wait a little longer, because here comes a surprise. You see, in Judges chapter 3, verses 15 to 30, we meet Ehud, one of Israel's left-handed assassins. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this story's not exactly what you think. It's weird, it's awkward, and it'll probably make you laugh. But at its heart, it's also got a surprising truth that could change how you think about being used by God. Now, before we dive in, let me just say this. The Bible's got all kinds of crazy stories, but this one takes the cake. So get ready for a ride. So back in the Bible times, there were these folks called the Benavites living over in the land of Canaan. They were kind of like the bullies in the schoolyard. They picked on the Israelites and made their lives a misery. And after 80 years of groaning under their thumb, Israel cried out to God for help, and God listened. He sent them a judge named Ehud. Now, Ehud means, my might is in my hand. From the start, he didn't look like the hero type. No shining armor, no booming voice, not even right-handed, which back then was like being ambidextrous. This guy was left-handed. That's a thing. See, back then, most folks were right-handed, and being left-handed was seen as kind of a defect, like you were born with a flaw. It was rare, it was looked down on. And to top it off, he came from a small, unimportant tribe called Manasseh. But here's the kicker. All that mattered to God was that Ehud had a heart for him and a willingness to do what God asked. In fact, God only needed Ehud to do one thing: deliver Israel from the Benami oppression once and for all. Now, you might be thinking, one small problem though. God, I'm left-handed. I'm from a tiny tribe and I don't have a big army or fancy weapons. In fact, I've got nothing. To which God might have replied, perfect. You're just the kind of hero I'm looking for. See, God's ways aren't our ways. He doesn't always pick the strong, the mighty, or the popular. Sometimes he goes for the underdog, the unlikely, the overlooked. Because God specializes in taking the weak and the powerless and letting them show the world just how powerful he can be. Anyway, God told Ehud to go to the Israelite king and tell him, get me 40 left-handed men. That way everyone will know it's from God. And God gave him a plan. He wanted Ehud to sneak into the king's court of Eglon, king of Moab, and assassinate him. But the question was how? How does a nobody from a minor tribe take out a powerful king without an army? Without a weapon, without anything except maybe his trusty left hand? Well, it turns out God had something else up his sleeve. Something that will make you laugh. A sword. Not just any sword, mind you. A sword hidden under Ehud's robe, a literal dagger concealed under his clothes. Talk about a fashion statement. Now, you might be wondering why a sword under his robe. Couldn't he just carry it openly or maybe put it somewhere else? Well, it's because being left-handed gave Ehud the perfect cover. See, back then, swords were usually worn on the right side of the body, near the heart, easy access and all that. But since Ehud was left-handed, he could wear his robe covering his left side and the sword hidden underneath. It was the perfect disguise. Nobody would ever expect trouble to come from his left hand. After all, it was considered his weaker hand. It was the hand that couldn't draw a sword, the hand that was supposed to be harmless. So with his secret weapon in place, Ehud did something else pretty bold. He assembled his team of 40 left-handed warriors, quirky band of misfits who probably faced a lot of raised eyebrows and snickers from the rest of the Israelites. They were the ultimate oddball army, the kind of group that might make you lose faith in humanity if you saw them on the street. But Ehud wasn't worried about what others thought. He had a mission, and he had God's backing. And came the final step, putting the plan in action. Ehud, along with his merry band of lefties, marched towards Moab, sneaking into the king's court under the cover of night. The target, King Eglon, sleeping soundly in his royal bedchamber. As Ehud got closer, his heart pounded in his chest. This was it, the moment of truth. And then, as he stood over the slumbering king, ready to strike, he did something unexpected. He unsheathed his sword with his left hand. Why? Because it was easier. See, even though it was awkward and probably looked pretty funny, using his left hand allowed him to be more precise, more controlled. With his dominant right hand, he could have risked slipping, making too much noise, or worse, missing his target. But with his weaker left hand, he had no choice but to be careful, to be steady, to be accurate. In the end, it worked. He plunged his sword deep into the king's belly and pulled it out quick as lightning. The assassination was swift, silent, and deadly. And just like that, the reign of terror for Moab's king and his descendants was over. As the news spread, the Israelites rose up against Moab, liberating themselves from the bondage that had held them down for so long. Now you might be thinking, wow, that's quite a story. Well, here's the punchline. Ehud wasn't what people expected. He was left-handed. That's a detail most would overlook, but that's exactly what God used to deliver Israel from oppression. A hidden blade, a quiet plan, and a victory that no one saw coming. Because when God moves, He doesn't always choose the strongest, the loudest, or the most obvious. He chooses the willing, the faithful, the ones who trust Him with what they've got, even if it's something as simple as their left hand. Think about it. You might feel ordinary, unnoticed, maybe even underestimated. But remember, God sees what others miss. He equips the overlooked and calls the unexpected. And when He's with you, your limitations become your launch pad. Ehud's story isn't just about one battle. It's about how God brings freedom through faith and obedience, even through someone no one saw coming. So if you're feeling overlooked, underestimated, or maybe a bit left out, don't worry. Your weakness might just be the very thing God will use to change the world. Thank you for watching. If this story reminded you that God can use you just as you are, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more truth-filled moments from Scripture. And remember, your weakness might be the very thing God will use to change the world. Until next time, stay faithful and let God write your story, even with your left hand.